How is everyone's Friday going? Welcome back to Friar Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about Jackson Merrill. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. We're going to talk about tempering our expectations for him because, while we don't sound like we dislike Jackson Merrill or anything like that, we're obviously rooting for him, excited for him. People are getting so out of hand with the expectations for him to come up this year and start in center field that it's like, it's probably not going to happen. First off, he's probably not going to come up. Maybe he does, but he's probably also not going to have a lot of success, and that's okay. That's where he is in his development. So we kind of want to just discuss, like, all right, guys, this is where we think we should have like realistic expectations for him. And just to start it off, let's talk about Jackson Merrill's experience. He's a shortstop. He played some second base. He played a little bit of outfield, right? It was like taking reps, and like I think he played a couple games last year. Not much. Then this year he comes in, he's playing left field. He's been practicing all offseason to play left field. Comes in there like, you know what? Why don't you get some work in center? And he came out and he said he feels more comfortable in center, which I will say is awesome. And that makes it honestly more likely that he is on the MLB team. But that's great. That's great if he is comfortable there. It's great if he can play there. However, we have to remember we got to start looking at what levels he's played in. Last year, he had 187 at bats in 46 games in Double-A. That's all he played. This year, his spring training numbers have not been that good. Their spring training numbers, they don't really matter, to be honest. But they kind of do when a guy's knocking on the door and he doesn't have experience, like barely any experience in Double-A and none in Triple-A. So I don't know. I think people are getting way too freaking out about it. And I kind of get it. Like, we haven't had a prospect come up in a while. There's reason to be excited. But also at the same time, like, why weren't we excited for Campy like this? I'll say that too. Campy was a high prospect, and everyone was kind of like, oh, whatever. And he was awesome last year.
I
So
love Campy.
yeah, and I'm just I don't know. I would like to know what you think, Isaac, because I feel like everyone's just kind of freaking out. Jackson Merrill is 20 years old. If he comes up into the MLB and starts in left or center, and he has over a 700 OPS, which is not those aren't good numbers, guys. That's a huge win. That's a huge win. That should not be like the bar where it's at. If he had over a 720, that'd be ridiculous for a 20-year-old that had only played in Double-A to come up and be able to do that. So that's what I'm thinking, man. But what are your thoughts right now? What are your thoughts on Jackson Merrill?
You'll probably notice I'm holding my mic instead of having it on my desk. I don't like it, but you probably do. I hope you do. So back to Jackson Merrill, right? I don't want Jackson Merrill out in center field on opening day, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think it's a great move, not because I don't think he's a good baseball player. I think he's going to be a great baseball player. I just think it's too early. I think Padre fans were spoiled with the rookie season of a 19-year-old shortstop. That's now your right fielder, one of the best Padres maybe ever, one of the best players in baseball for sure. I think we're spoiled with that. And now we're expecting that from each of our top prospects when it's not reasonable. Jackson Merrill's spring stats aren't good. They're okay. Spring stats, of course, like you said, Matt, they don't matter that much. But truth of the matter is, you go on Twitter, you see his highlights, and you would think the guy has a 900 OPS in spring with like 16 home runs. It's just not the case, and it's nothing against him. I think he's a great personality. I love seeing his interviews on the mic whenever they do those questions. I think he's got great. I mean, he's got swagger. He's that type of player that I think could be fun to watch. But it's going to be the same people that want him up now that are going to be slandering him if he's not producing at the level that they want him to. Because right now, if you go on Twitter, people expect him to be a star. People think like this guy might be a star. Like, I think we have our center fielder. Like, I want him in center field. I want him in center field. I want him out there. Those 19-year-old shortstops like Fernando don't come around very often. It's actually very incredibly rare that they come around and produce the way that Fernando did. So to get a guy that's going to be playing a new position with a team that has high expectations, with a fan base that has high expectations, 2024 season tickets, they're sold out again. So there's a lot of expectations. So not that I don't think he can handle it. I think he's going to be a great player again. But, you look at his numbers in the minors, you're looking at about a 42% ground ball rate, under an 800 OPS last year in the minors, guys, I think there's room for improvement for him, and I think that improvement is in him. I think he can be a great player. I think he'll have a fantastic year in the minors, but expecting someone to come up and be an immediate contributor when, I mean, they had a really long slump last year. They're still trying to work on elevating the ball more often than not. There's just room for improvement, and I think thrusting him into that role so fast is setting him up for failure. A lot of people have complained that the Padres move people up too fast in their organization. Why not this time? Why are we not complaining about that this time? It's just because we're desperate for a center fielder. I don't want. I mean, look at Ryan Weathers, right? He started off super hot. He started off as one of the best young pitchers that we've seen recently, right? And what happened then? Now he's a 64 overall in Diamond Dynasty. A 64. He's a silver, guys. Take this for reference, right? In the show 23 right now, they have a moonshot event, which is where you put all your best players, all your best hitters, but you can only throw 64 and 65 overalls, like the worst pitchers in the game. Ryan Weathers is on that team, right? So that's a prime example of moving guys up too fast through the system that are young, have success, hit a block, and suddenly they're not good baseball players anymore. I don't want that to happen to Jackson Merrill. What we need young, affordable baseball players right now. And yes, Jackson Merrill fits that bill right now. But the difference is they got to be good. They can't be, mediocre baseball players. We need young, good baseball players. I'm willing to wait another year or two if that means that Jackson Merrill is going to be a young, good, affordable baseball player rather than rushing him right now, expecting him to be a 750 plus OPS guy with solid defense in a brand new position. Like, let's be real here. Not everyone can make the smooth transition like Fernando did to right field. And I think Jackson Merrill will be a good outfielder. I think he's got the athletic ability to be a good outfielder. Just at the plate, man, it seems like people are expecting more than what should be expected. Now, hey, Matt, you're right. If he comes up and he produces a 720 OPS, a 730 OPS, I'll be happy, right? That's all you could ask for considering what you got from Grisham at the plate, right? You won't have the same type of defense, but defense is not too much of a big deal for me when you have a platinum glove outfielder to the left of you, technically right, I guess you could say, but when you're out there, it's left. And then when you have, two platinum glove worthy defenders in the infield, right? It's like you got a lot working for you defensively. Now let's work on stuff offensively. But what I've been seeing, it's too much, man. It's too much of a billing for him to fit, for him to achieve. I'd like to see the Padres take their time with a prospect rather than rushing him.
Yeah, and I feel like, okay, I'll say this. I feel like people probably are listening. They're like, these guys hate Jackson Merrill. Definitely not. It's definitely not the case. It's
No.
not about that. It's more about just like, guys, like it's so early and like 700. And look, here's the other thing. Say he comes out, Isaac, and I know you're gonna 100% agree with this. Say he comes out and he posts a 770 or an 800 OPS.
Oh, I'll be glad.
We will 100% eat our words. We'll be like, dude, we are totally wrong.
Oh,
We
yeah.
thought they should have brought him up, and all of the credit in the world to him and also the organization for knowing to bring him up. Like 100%, right? But I just don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think the Padres are expecting that to happen. I don't think the organization is looking at him going, oh, he's knocking on the door like Fernando. No, I know maybe some of the media stuff that they're pumping out is going to say that does not relate to what they think internally. The media, like the team media and stuff, says the crazy things that are not accurate. Like they get really excited because they're just trying to pump everyone up, right? And when you got a rookie, it's like, oh, this is the new rookie. This is the guy. He's top 10 prospect. And it's really easy to get excited. But let me give you a name. And Isaac, I know you're gonna love this name because we've talked about this dude a bunch off air. Elly De La Cruz.
Oh,
If you listened to the commentary on Elly De La Cruz last year, what just based on what people said about him, Isaac, what do you think? He
top,
had over
top 15 player in baseball, best thing that ever
15?
happened. Best thing that ever happened to the Reds.
1,000 OPS, 50 stolen bases, 50 bombs, right? That's the way people talked about him. Elly De La Cruz, who is talked about, who, let me tell you this, he had over a 900 OPS in 22, in AA. And then in AAA in 23 before he got called up, which was not opening day, he had over 1,000 OPS in AAA before he got called up. He got called up a couple, like I think I want to say like 2 or 3 months into the season, if I remember right. He had a 710 OPS, and he was talked about like he was the second coming of Babe Ruth, right? Like the way that they would hype him up, right? So here's the thing: is like these guys get hyped. It's not because of the numbers they're putting up. It's because of like, okay, look at their progressing and stuff. He's about the same age that Merrill will be this year. Merrill, he was 21 last year. Merrill's going to be 21 early on into the season, like a couple weeks in. But like if he's 7'10", that's pretty damn good. That's the thing. Like, and people are acting like he's like Merrill's gonna be able to come up and be like over a 750 guy. Like Ellie De La Cruz, who was tearing the cover off of the baseball in leagues that Jackson Merrill was not. That he was not doing that. Jackson Merrill didn't have a 110 OPS plus in AA last year, or in the combined of high A and AA. He had like a 108 OPS plus. He didn't have good numbers. Now he did have a really long slump, and then he broke out of that and he improved a lot. But he's still got some time to go. And Isaac, I think you're right. The way that we're kind of thinking about this is it's not about like, oh, he's not ready. He's not ready. It's more like, let's not ruin this dude. Like we saw what happened to Ryan Weathers, and we've heard players complain about the Padres development that they rush guys up too early. Like that's what we're talking about here. So it's more of like, dude, let's just be careful with Jackson Merrill, because I feel like if he does come up, he's not going to perform that way that a lot of people think, and then everyone's going to be like, this dude is he's a bust, he's overrated, and then you get that right away, and it's like, dude, these guys, he's 20 years old, he's a kid. That's a hard thing to overcome. Like,
yeah.
And we're saying that, dude. We're in our early 20s, and we're like, this guy's a kid. So it's crazy to see, but it's like I just don't want the excitement to get so like ridiculous. Now, I will say, like you said, dude, the interviews, his swagger, he's got it, dude. He's got it.
Yeah, he's got it.
But let's wait. Let's let him become that in time. Because if you look at how he kind of progressed in the minors, like he would improve. He would hit a wall and he would improve. Well, if we just send him way up when he probably should start the year in AA.
Yep.
Maybe AAA if you're pushing it, but like probably AA if we're being honest. He wasn't in a spot where he's being pushed all the way up right now. So it's interesting to see. I honestly wonder what most people listening think too. Like I want to hear what you guys think. Like, do you think he's ready? You think they're pushing up way too soon? But it's just tough, dude, because I feel like that is a concern. Now, maybe not. Maybe he comes up and he's awesome and he's able to handle it. And, he's improved with just his approach. He's driving the ball more, stuff like that. And if he is, and it makes sense, like, yeah, it makes sense. But it is a big concern when you start like pushing a guy up super fast. Like we even saw that with Salas last year, and he didn't have much.
Yeah. He struggled when he came up,
but he did struggle when he got there. So it's like, and guess what? He should have. He should have struggled. Like,
yeah, for sure.
So I think that's the thing, is like it's really easy to get like, especially in baseball too, because like the NFL, the NBA, like especially
they're there immediately.
Like this year in the NBA, you got Wembayama, you got Chet. It's like, oh, these guys are amazing. That's not baseball. Like baseball takes a while. I mean, they're talking about Ethan Salas. Ethan Salas is going to start the year in AA. We had a quote this year that said Ethan Salas is as close of a prospect we've seen since Bryce Harper, and he's in AA. Like he's still got like a year or two probably.
And then you had another one that said, if you could, I forgot who they asked. I think they asked Keith Law. They said, if you could pick prospects that you could see going to the Hall of Fame, who would you pick? They said Jackson Holliday and Ethan Salas. High expectations. That's the guy we should be really excited for now. Going back to Jackson, before I go back to Jackson Merrill, I'll go to Ellie De La Cruz. His card in the show is fantastic. His card is crazy. Now, real life, it does not match. And I think Ellie's going to be a great baseball player. I think he's going to be fantastic. But that's an instance of where like it looks like they're not rushing him because his stats in the minors were so good, but he's still so young. And the reason that he was portrayed as one of the best players, it seemed like one of the best players in baseball if you kept up with the media. He's just marketable, man. He's just a really marketable player. The chains, the swag, the switch hitting, throws the ball super hard from short or third, wherever he plays. He's just a marketable baseball player. Jackson Merrill will probably be the same thing. He's going to be a marketable baseball player. Now, I just don't. The thing is, right, the Padres need a lefty bat in the lineup. They need young, controllable players in the lineup. But what bothers me about the Padres is that when they do this, for example, they actually do this with quite a few guys. They almost did it to Campusano. When a prospect struggles at first, they almost don't get a second chance. I didn't think Campusano was going to be back. I really didn't. I thought they were going to give up on him. And after Ryan Weathers got shelled, they I mean, I don't like Ryan Weathers or his family, but I will say I think they kind of started to give up on him a little bit as well. Um, it seems like they give up on prospects a lot faster than successful teams do. So I don't want that to be the case with Jackson Merrill. I don't want him to come up, struggle, and then they throw him back in AA or AAA for a long time. We see him come back up. He does okay, but because he's not what they expected, they trade him for a star, and now we don't have any young controllable players anymore. I don't want that. I want him to be a 2 or 3 WAR player with time. I don't think he's ready to be that right now. His projection's a 1.5, a 1.5 F4. I think that's kind of high. I really do, and I hate to say it because I just think it's kind of unrealistic to expect a season like that from a guy that's so young, doesn't have a lot of experience past double A. And again, like you said, Matt, there's nothing against him. I think he's going to be fantastic, man. I like Jackson Merrill. He's a great prospect. He's a great baseball player. This is more so about the Padres than Jackson Merrill. This is more so the fact that I'm tired of seeing them rush a prospect, the prospect doesn't succeed, and then they almost give up or entirely give up on the prospect. And now you're out of a guy that was once highly touted in baseball. Right? I mean, that's the way I see it. I don't want that for him. I think he can, hey, if he contributes this year, gladly will eat my words. This isn't about being right. I don't care to be right at all. If I'm wrong and the Padres are winning, I will gladly swallow that pill. I do not care. I just want the Padres to finally have successful young players, and that's going to be super important to the future, right? Manny's going to be 32 next year. Xander, same thing. Fernando's not getting younger. You might lose ha-seong Kim. Jake's going to be 30 or 31. Musgrove, Darvish, like all these guys are aging. You need some young baseball players. So I just don't want Jackson Merrill to fall into the loop of the Padres farm system and giving up on their players.
Yeah, and also you brought up Campusano. That's a good one to bring up because we kind of 100% thought like, oh yeah, Campy's gone. Like a couple years ago, was, oh, he's done. And then, dude, it seemed like the way that like you would hear things about him, it seemed like the organization had no faith in him. And then they were like trying to trade him because they had no faith in him. But everyone was like, you don't have faith in this guy. Why should we have faith in this guy? And then he eventually comes up and it's like, oh yeah, he was doing really well. He improved in the areas that he wasn't good in because he was young and he needed more experience, especially like fielding wise. And now he's doing pretty good. But I'll even say this, Isaac. Forget Jackson Merrill for 1 second. I know that's what we're talking about, but Luis Campusano, you made me think of this right now when we're talking. What happens if Luis Campusano has a bad year this year? Do we really think they're going to come back in 25 and be like, you're the starting catcher again? Because I don't. Because we've seen that it's like when you hit that, and guys, like baseball is such a up and down type of thing. So it's just like it's tough. But yeah, that's kind of all I got on Jackson Merrill. But I don't know any final closing remarks. I do feel like we kind of beat it home. Like, yeah, dude, it's not about him, or we don't think that he's like bad or anything. It's just like we're getting too excited because everyone goes way crazy with it.
That's the thing that happens with every top prospect, right? Everyone gets super excited, and if they don't meet up to those expectations, everyone's disappointed and they say send him back to the minors, and then trade deadline comes and they think they should trade him. I don't think we're like that. From what I remember, we wanted to trade Ryan Weathers because the numbers did not show that he was as good as he thought. I mean, it's just a matter of like, look, you don't want the guy to fall into that Ryan Weathers, Chris Paddock, Luis Campusano. The names, they keep coming and coming and coming because it's just an endless cycle for the Padres, right? You have one of the top farm systems in baseball. You look like you're going to be one of the brightest teams of the future. You bring up the guys too early, they suck, and then they're gone. It happens time and time again. So, yeah, I'm excited for Jackson Merrill. I just don't. I don't think it's is in either of the Padres or his best interest to be up. in the major leagues.
Yeah. And it kind of does seem very likely that he will be in the major leagues. So with all this said, I certainly hope we are wrong. I hope Jackson Merrill is ready. And I hope it's like, let's go. Jackson Merrill was totally ready, and he's different than some of these other guys we've seen. I hope that's the case. And maybe it helps that Mike Schilt was down in the minor league system working with these guys. Maybe there's something there that is a little bit different this time around, because it does seem like the Padres farm system is improving, like than what it was at the beginning of the AJ Preller tenure. Like it seems like it is better, just especially from what you hear about people. So hopefully that's the case, and hopefully Jackson Merrill can be a person that we look back and we're like that. Yeah, Jackson Merrill is, he's there, and then with all these young pitchers and with Ethan Salas and like guys like Dylan Lesko that are like super elite prospects too, we're like, oh my god, these guys are gonna be awesome. Like I hope that's what it is. I'm just worried that it's too early and everyone's going crazy, and then it's gonna be, oh, this guy's a bust, because it's just like, dude, he's gonna be 21 years old, and if he doesn't perform, people are gonna start being, oh, this guy's a bust, and it's like, dude, he is 21 years old.
People
He might.
started doing that to CJ Abrams in 2022 as well.
Yeah, they did it. People were saying that from last year, and it's like, dude, Abrams was awesome for how old he was last year. And guess what? Another person is like, you look right now, like James Woods tearing the cover off the baseball. Guess what? He's still young. He might come up and he's gonna slump or something. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, look, this guy's not as good as everyone said. It's like, no, he is. Most of these guys don't start panning out till they're 24, 25. Like it could be 4 seasons till Jackson Merrill is like who he is in the pros. And that's not how people are gonna take it. People are gonna feel way too rushed, and they're not gonna give him the patience. You got to be patient with these guys. Look how old Adley Rutschman was when he came up, right? He's like 25 or 24. I saw a thing the other day. Rutschman is 9 years older than Ethan Salas. 9 years. And now he was like super pro ready and stuff, but like he breezed through the minors. He's a guy like that. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Like those guys aren't common. I don't know. I hope you like that I brought up Ellie De La Cruz, because I know that's a guy that they want to talk
I
about.
I like him and don't like him at the same time, because I
Well,
think he's a good baseball player, but I also don't like the hype that goes around him for the numbers that he put up. Not being a hater, I'm not a hater at all. Like I love his card in the show, but no, I think a lot of these guys, they do, especially catchers, they take a while to pan out. But we're not here. We're talking about a shortstop, center fielder, right? And like, not everyone is going to be Juan Soto or Fernando Tatis Jr. or Ronald Acuna Jr. or Vladdy. Like those guys are so. It seems like it happens more often than not, just because of how often we hear of these guys. But I'd say that happens less than 2 or 1% of the time, if I'm being completely honest. So let's not get ahead of ourselves and say this guy's going to be, a 3-WAR player, blah, blah, blah. Dude, you're right. Abrams was pretty freaking good last year for his age. I didn't expect that from him. He wasn't even like horrible in this small stint with the Padres. Like, yeah, the numbers weren't that great, but he was actually starting to kind of hit the ball a little bit. Goes to Washington, struggles, and now, I think he's going to break out this year. I think he's ready for it. I think that's the same trajectory that Merrill could be on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Also, if anyone didn't pick it up, Isaac has been playing the show, and you might think that this episode is sponsored by MLB The Show because it comes out next week, but it's not. However, we should make it sponsored. I'm with that. What do you think, Isaac? Get sponsored by the show?
I'd
But
love to get a free cover or a free game and all the packs that I can get to build a Padres theme team.
yeah, we're probably gonna actually be playing the show a lot this year, so it'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'm awful. I need to like learn how to hit on the actual one, like because I played
The
like
PCI, you know what? For a while, I was stupid awful. I swing at pitches that fall 6 inches before the plate, but I still have fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Let us know what you think about Jackson Merrill, some of these other guys. What do you think the Padres outfield is going to look like? We'll be back probably sometime next week. But yeah, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Have a good night and have a great weekend. See y'all.